Hello. Welcome back to a Fresh Stories. I don't know. We're calling it like book corner, fresh reads, book talk. Well, there's no one name, but we're here to talk about books today. And I'm personally so excited. A dear friend, longtime friend now at this point, is on the show. She has been working on this book since I met her, which is almost 4 years ago at this point. The book is now available for pre-order. So as soon as that happened, I made her come on the show. So if you don't know her by now, she is the incomparable That Darn Chat, aka Laura Danger, or backwards, Laura Danger, aka That Darn Chat. I'm so excited about her book, No More Mediocre, which I've gotten the chance to read. And I just know this book is going to blow the world up. I'm just going to say that. Laura, welcome.
Hi. Thanks for
Hi.
having me.
You're
What
so
an
welcome.
intro.
Well, you're one of our favorite people, and we talk obviously about a lot of the same stuff. You have an amazing podcast, Time to Lean, with one of our other favorite people, Crystal Britt, and it's probably the only podcast I listen to these days besides our own. You have been writing this book a long time. Can you tell us a little bit
Yes,
about No More Mediocre?
I would be happy to. Yeah, it's wild. It comes out January 6th, 2026. And it's so interesting. Anybody who reads the book will find that there's a little anecdote, like right at the end, where I talk about uh, a summer party that happens in our neighborhood. And it is about to happen this weekend, the annual one. So I turned this manuscript in a year ago. Over a year ago, it was done, and the editing process is wild. So it's like a monumental moment for me now, a year out from turning in this manuscript. But yeah, it's a book, like, just kind of to give the long and short. It's a book about the ways that domestic labor and care work are devalued in our homes and the impact that that has on how we balance this in our homes, how we approach it. So it's a bit of an exploration of the culture of like sitcom comedy, weaponized incompetence, nagging, the idea, like, where does nagging come from? Um, it goes through all of those things. And each chapter comes with at least 5 actionable steps that we can take right now to do better and have better for ourselves. Um, and a lot of people, if anybody knows me from the internet, I'm probably best known for talking about and popularizing weaponized incompetence and the nag paradox. So that's in the book. And I explore far more than that and try to paint a picture of just the context that we're working with. Because domestic inequity and, the arguments over how we're going to split the dishes, it's a pretty universal experience that we have a hard time with that and don't really have examples or models or skills taught to us or shown to us. So my hope is that this book uh, helps us to reflect on the things that we can do, but also doesn't blame us individually for the ways that we may have slipped into these dynamics or
Mm,
the ways that we may have laughed off our discomfort or for the choices that we make to survive. And you know that full
mhm.
well. You know that so well.
So many things to say about this. I think one of the beautiful things about your book is that you do a really great job blending the history of what you're talking about with how it actually affects our day to day now, right? And so, especially let's take something as silly as like folding towels, right? Which I know you've talked about in the past. It's like, okay, is this something you even talk about before you get married? Who's going to fold the towels, right? Nobody talks about that. They talk about what dress you're going to
Mhm.
have and the cake you're going to eat and all of those things. But you also blend in deep history of where this comes from and the roots of all of
Mhm.
this. And I think it's really important with all of us disconnected from the internet, we are also still connected to talk about how even in our day-to-day mundane lives, we're still connected to the history of domestic equity and inequity. Where did that come from? And how it affects our parenting, our sex life. I mean, literally everything. And especially not, I love that you bring in the sitcom and, all the media and pop culture stuff because that's where I thrive. But I think that people are going to sit down to read this and truly come out a different person from reading this book.
I appreciate that very much. And I do I feel the same. It can sometimes be hard to like pat yourself on the back. But this book really came out of relationships that I have had and the support that I've had from people like you, things I've learned from other people. And because it's about relationships, I've learned from my relationships, from the people I've worked with. This is written, it's taken a lot of different forms. Chapters have been added and cut, and it has turned into this collaborative book that is something that not just one person is going to read in isolation of their home, but the intent is that multiple people will read it, or they will write their name inside of it with a little heart and pass it on, and then it will just go through bags and on bookshelves and across bedside tables and checked out from the library with a note in it. The hope is that it is helpful in imagining what we can have and prompt some reflection. It's not like the 5-step plan to fix your life. Like, I know that the title of like No More Mediocre, like this, it's meant to catch your eye and to inspire you to think like, oh, what does mediocre even mean? And then to go from there, the book is meant to help you decide what that means, because it's
Right.
so unique.
Yeah. It's a community tool, right?
Yeah.
And that's really like, and you and Crystal are very much about like community care, self-care, which we're all about at Fresh Starts, and that we learn from each other. And that sometimes is hard for people, right? Especially we talk about divorce, right? People don't want to be friends with the divorced people because then they're learning that you thrive after divorce. And then, oh my gosh, my marriage doesn't look like that, right? And the same with talking about all of the domestic inequity and equity and weaponized incompetence. We have normalized so much of this in marriages. And I think, and I know from your comment section, that a lot of people don't like when you call out the fact that like dads should be diapering kids and taking them on
Mhm.
vacation and all these things, right? Or at least getting up in the middle of the night with the kids, right? Little things.
Yes.
Uh, so what are you most excited for people to read this book?
I'm most excited. I think I think that I touch on a lot of the subtleties, like you said, the little subtleties, like not waking up in the middle of the night, or there's a section about the ways that we put mom, like mom fail, or this is, a mom's group. And just the subtle ways that we would benefit from questioning the terms, the labels, who's included in a space or excluded.
Yep.
And I don't say that because I don't, um, I don't think there shouldn't be closed spaces with people who have a shared experience. However, we often fall into dynamics that are harmful because we are not thinking critically about it. And again, the book I'm hoping that it will force us to ask questions, questions that we might not have asked before, so that we are being intentional and opting into things.
Hmm.
Um, and what's been really cool is, I'm rolling it out very slowly, and to the people who I know me and are going to give me true feedback and things like that as it comes out. And it's been so cool to hear not just the stuff that ends up in my comment sections, not just the stuff that I talk about like out loud to my friends, but I am hearing the quiet things that really struck people and saying like, "Oh wow, I hadn't thought about that," or "I felt so seen. I didn't realize I wasn't alone in that." And there's something different about the eye grabbing like heartstrings that get pulled online, because it really catches your attention. But when you're reading a book, it is different. You have time. You're usually alone. If you're doing it in a book club, you can then bring it to the other people and be like, "Oh my gosh, what did you think about this?"
Yeah.
But it's a different experience. And hearing people's reactions it's been really profound for me.
Well, you've put years of your blood, sweat, and tears into this book. truly like into this book, into this research. You are an educator at heart, and I think that you truly want to educate people and empower them, right, to have these conversations. We're both former teachers. All of my old students love you, but you're getting married now. You're in your late 20s. And I'm looking at all these pictures of them in their beautiful dresses and their honeymoons, and I want to shake them a little bit and say, you need to do some conversation starting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
go get Laura's book and read this, right? There's so many things that you don't realize until a couple of years into marriage. And what I appreciate about you is that you have been so graceful with the conversation about your own marriage in your online space. And in the book, you do delve into it a little bit more and talk about the journey that you and Jack had to come on together. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you can start, which you start the book like that, and you build authenticity and loyalty with your audience, people will understand, like, you get it, right? You've been there. You're not
Right.
just proselytizing at them. You really had to have these conversations and see what his face looked like and go to bed with that
Mm-hmm.
person and then process that. So this is like real, you were really immersed in your own studies, which I think is really, really cool. Um, so
Yes.
who would you say, Laura, this book is ideally for? I mean, everybody, obviously, but who should go out and pick up this book?
That's a great question. And I would say I do delve into some of my personal story, and that was really challenging to try to figure out. Especially it's just such a personal experience. Like, that's the whole point. Domestic labor and care work is the most intimate human work. And so talking about how the role it played in my relationship and how that's changed it definitely feels raw, and handing it to people like my mother, who has been my mom for so
Mm,
long.
hmm.
Um, Things like that, it's been really interesting. I would say, like, if you ever found yourself in a situation, uh, kind of feeling like you didn't get what you were promised out of life, and that could be out of a romantic partnership or about a challenge, like climbing the corporate ladder or whatever the heck you were trying to, if you were trying to girl boss or whatever it was, or this is not a book written for women. This is a book that I would hope that all women would see themselves in. And this is a book written specifically to be shared and to bring everyone in. I am in a cishet relationship and have been in one for 16 years. And so I come to that with my story. However, the stories that are included are all kinds of diverse families. I cover across race, class, disability, religion, all sorts of things are covered in the book and the people that I talk to and researching and writing. But yeah, it's basically anybody who has thought, I'm going to put my eggs in this basket, this romantic partnership, and we're going to have a household together. This is going to be a serious part of my life. This is what I want. My hope is that this will make you feel seen and challenge you to be intentional with where you go from here.
Absolutely. And I was going to say too, this is not just for women, and I'm glad you reiterated that. This is for everyone. One of the beautiful things I also love about this book is that it's not you are admittedly neurodivergent, you have ADHD. And it, as somebody that also has ADHD, I get very like, I stumble in books sometimes when they are sociological but also dive into too much history or too many statistics. I can't, my brain can't handle it. And so I love that you have a beautiful balance of like really explaining things from an educational perspective and then how it affects us now. And I appreciate that as somebody that, you know, I love sociological kind of narrative books, but sometimes they're a little dry or hard for me to read. So where can we get the book?
Okay. So you can get it anywhere. You can get it wherever you get books. You If you are pre-ordering, you can get it through my website, which is lauradanger.com, or no more mediocre book.com also works. And I'm doing a signed special before the pub date, so before January 6th, you can get it from Women and Children First Bookstore, which is here in Chicago. So I'm going to be signing them and they'll mail them out. And if you pre-order, there's an exclusive, so you can redeem that. Again, I have the link on my website. It's a special landing page. And you can get, it's a high impact tasks workbook. And as you know, with the ADHD, sometimes there's this like
Uh-huh.
frozen thing you go through where you're like, everything is so overwhelming. I don't even know where to begin. And so this is the sort of tool that you can use for yourself. And it's a conversation starter within your household to say, like, hey, here are a couple of things that we should do. If you're like, I don't see the mess. I don't know where to begin. Um, for yourself or your partner or for both of you to sit down and be like, okay, what's going to be the most impactful place for us to start? So you can get that as a pre-order exclusive.
Amazing. And I now remember what I was going to say before, which was that in the divorce and, domestic weaponized incompetence world, and I say this as somebody in it too, it is very white and it is very heterosexual. We do a really concentrated effort at Fresh Starts to make everything gender neutral because so many stories from all different types of couples, right, that are getting divorced. And you do a really great job, I think, I know in your work and your content and in the book of not just being the perspective of a white, cis het couple who've been together for 16 years, but like
Mm-hmm.
everybody, two dads, two moms, poly, whatever it is, you're going to have to deal with
Mm-hmm.
who's going to fucking fold the towels.
Yep.
And also like, not to mention, like, I live in a multi-generational house. Literally folding the towels is one of the things we talk about. It's like, who's going to fold the
Mm-hmm.
towels? So maybe this is not necessarily a conversation with your, husband, but with your parents or with your babysitter or whatever it is. One last question for you, Laura.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hard one. If somebody is considering reading the book and they're nervous because they
Mm-hmm.
know what they read is going to change them, what would be some words of encouragement that you could leave them with?
I would say that there's only positive steps you can take. When you are intentional, all you can do is align your life more with what you want. Basically, the thesis of my book is what do you want and how do you want to get there? That's it.
Oh.
And there is no downside. There's no downside to, and you say it all the time, like a fresh start or steps toward meeting your needs more efficiently. That's what it's all about. Nothing to be scared about or be scared and do it anyway.
And you have a lot of resources for the people that are
Oh,
scared and
yeah.
do it anyway, or that want to take the change. We both are people that believe in scripts majorly. You have a lot of scripts.
Mm-hmm.
The book has
Mm-hmm.
a lot of helpful things. As you said, each chapter has helpful resources and action. And this was very much written for people that want to make the change.
Mm-hmm.
And this little subtle things that you talk about in the book, I know a lot of people are going to see that and go, "Oh my gosh, I feel seen. I feel validated and heard. I'm not alone." And is there any better feeling than knowing that somebody's reading your book in the middle of the night saying, I feel seen and not alone? It's
No,
chilling.
I just like want to weep about it. Every
Yeah.
time I picture it,
Mhm.
it's incredible. Ugh.
Incredible. Well, we are so proud of you. We cannot wait to go celebrate this book all over. Thank you for being here. If you're listening, the links will be in the show notes. Please go pre order this book because it will make all the difference. And if you're listening after January, which you might be also, go buy the book anyway because it's an amazing book that is going to change lives. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you for having me.